Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today we're here joined together with the team from Programmed and Drone Deploy to discuss cell tower data capture and the optimizations utilized with UAS and Drone Deploy, the reconstruction platform. Some quick introductions. My name is James Finch. I'm the solutions engineer from Skydio, and we're joined again with the team from Programmed and Drone Deploy. Please, Ben, Jay, and Ross. Ben, Jay, Ross, please introduce yourself. Thanks.
G'day everyone. I'm Ben Brown. So I'm the Service Delivery Manager for Digital Asset Capture for Programmed in New Zealand. So I'm essentially heading the development of the use of drones, both air and ground asset capture for the business.
Kia ora tātou. Kia ora tātou, that's hello to everyone, and no mai haere mai, welcome. I'm Jay. I look after health and safety for Program Group in New Zealand. The reason why I've been involved in the drones is to make sure that we've got a robust system in place and we're working safely and efficiently. And we'll discuss more about how we're using that shortly. And I'll hand over to Ross.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, Ross Richter here, Strategic Solutions Consultant for Drone Deploy, based in Brisbane. And yeah, I've got a background in remote sensing, about 9 years in hyperspectral LiDAR photogrammetry from drones and autonomous robots. And yeah, really excited about these use cases. So over to you, James.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone, and thanks for joining again today. And thank you for those introductions. Moving on to the next slide, we'll thank you, Jay. We'll talk a little bit about Programmed and some of your background into the program that you're running over there with your drones, and obviously the utilization of Drone Deploy as well.
Certainly. So Programmed as a business operates across Australia and New Zealand. Broader sense, we operate across many different countries in our parents and persol. The concept around capture with UAV or UAS started about 3 years ago. Some of our workers came to us asking to view roof spaces. They didn't want to get up on a ladder or go out in EWP. So I was asked to then explore it and look at the merits of bringing it into the business. So through significant due diligence, we looked at many different processes of what type of systems or platforms we're going to do, what's it like reputationally, or the risk in terms of the aerospace, to where we can operate. And then as a result, we've been able to expand into Australia, where we're seeing some of the initiatives that we've developed here transfer over to Australia and continue to grow our offerings and deliver value to our clients.
Excellent. Thanks, Jay. Well, next up, we're going to be talking a little bit about how your team over there is enhancing cell tower inspections, and we'll have a few questions after that as well. So over to the next slide there, please. And yeah, let's start discussing the enhancing cell tower inspections that you guys are doing.
Perfect. I just want to, before we go into that, I just want to explain that. Yeah, so it became evident very early on in exploring these drones that we could apply this into other spaces, which is where we've ended up into the cell tower inspection. We started off with 2D mapping, realized we could do 3D mapping, and realized the value between the Drone Deploy platform from that automation, and then enhancing it into the Skydio platform with their automation in terms of these modelings that we're doing. We're going to look at we do it in telecommunications, cell towers, all sorts of other sort of telco towers. What we're positioning today is a training tower. We've got sensitivities around our clients, so we can't physically show their assets to everyone on the site, but we can discuss the same process and modelling that we do in that space. Some of the assets that we are capturing are lattice structures like this transmission tower here. This is our training unit. We go to this site regularly to push the boundaries of both Drone Deploy and Skydio, and it has been captured in detail many, many times. And you'll see as we progress through here that the complex structure like this, the capture from a Skydio perspective, but also the remodeling into Drone Deploy is quite outstanding. Ben manages the operational team, so he's going to discuss most of the operational questions about how the process of capturing and where we get to, and then also the risk mitigation, some of the benefits that we're seeing on the remoteness of some of these sites. So this provider or this client that we work with, along with many other similar clients, is across every single part of New Zealand. It's not even just New Zealand, some of the islands that are around New Zealand, and some of these sites are extremely remote. We can only access them by helicopter or by boat.
Interesting. No, that's very very interesting. So, how many of these sort of assets and towers are located in remote areas around New Zealand?
Oh, it'd be a good percentage of them. Most of them would be out of urban areas that required, a good, I'd say a good half-hour drive between each of them. I mean, there are a lot that are within Department of Conservation sites that require, extra access, permissions. There are a lot that are in offshore islands, because of course we're talking about places that, wouldn't otherwise be connected if it wasn't for these towers. So we're not talking about, easy access locations. They're all pretty well. There's an eclectic mix of locations, but the most of them are definitely in the middle of nowhere. Our guys do a lot of kilometers. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, great. And it's an interesting use case, having to ferry equipment to try and capture this sort of data capture on these remote areas. Requires traditionally quite a lot of logistics to get up into these spaces, and obviously, we're recognizing the benefits of UAS in this field. So, questions for you, Ben. It's really interesting. What were your goals when you began using UAS for inspection, and have you surprised yourself or surpassed any of these goals that you first set out when you started utilizing UAS for this type of inspection?
Yeah, well, using this type of technology has a lot of benefits, really, over the sort of traditional telco inspection methods. If we're talking about avoiding sending someone up a tower, a rigger, they can't fall off the tower if you don't send them up. And for the most part, they don't really have anything, any sort of major benefit other than being able to physically, inspect, the asset quite close up. Whereas, for the drone work, I'd say 95% of the inspection can be done visually, and it's really quite neat that we've managed to convert those sort of traditional the traditional inspector types to actually consider this type of technology as being a very useful tool in the toolkit, which was previously sort of seen as perhaps a bit of a gimmick in the industry. We've got guys that are that really truly weren't convinced before we started this program. Riggers that have been doing the job for years, and they're looking at this stuff saying, wow, it's a really useful tool. As far as health and safety is concerned, it's absolutely a game changer. And if you can do 95% of your inspections with a drone, and then escalate that 5% that perhaps look like they might require a physical inspection by a rigger, then I mean it's just it's an amazing increase in efficiency just across the board. Yeah. And that was one of the main reasons I think that we've done so well with this program is just the increase in efficiencies across the board. We're talking about decreased costs in inspections. We're talking about increased health and safety. It's a win-win-win. The client wins because the inspections are are safer, more cost effective, and our guys aren't put at risk.
Excellent.
Ben, I think there's additional to that is you can review this site again and again without having to send somebody there. The information is contextual. It's in a 3D model. So you're not just looking at individual images, and then you've got different parts of the businesses that are now leveraging off of this. So whilst it was designed out of inspection, we've now got people looking at real estate space that's available on these assets. And they wouldn't necessarily be aware of that, but they're able to very quickly go and have a look at what's available, which is adding extra value to the clients. And that's something that program's really cognizant of, is that we want to make sure we're adding value consistently to our clients, and it's high quality.
Excellent. So it seems, there's certainly a lot of benefits, from a risk mitigation perspective, data capture efficiency. There's a lot of versatility in capturing this sort of data with a drone, and obviously the safety behind it is our biggest concern, and passing on those savings to our clients as well is absolutely paramount in really making this a scalable platform and pushing this out to the rest of the program. So, Ben, you've been heading up this program for quite some time. You've been utilizing Skydio drones and Drone Deploy for your reconstructions. Next, it'd be great to understand how program is cutting the data capture time with these new processes that you've been putting in place. With the use of UAS technology and obviously the reconstruction platform Drone Deploy.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's absolutely no comparison in sending riggers up in the traditional sense versus capturing this type of asset with this type of technology. I mean, the amount of time it takes to actually send the drone up, do the capture, you could pretty much capture a lattice tower of this type within about half an hour if you were good at setting it up. Perhaps 45 minutes if you were sort of getting a bit used to it. But the fact that you can gather enough data for a subject matter expert to be able to inspect an asset of this type within half an hour, and then have it built into a 3D model that they can inspect perhaps within the same day somewhere else in the country or anywhere in the world for that matter is absolutely groundbreaking. I'm really impressed with the Drone Deploy, the Drone Deploy platform, and just how responsive the technicians in the back end, the engineers have been for supporting the work that we've been doing, to be able to produce high quality models very quickly is a really fantastic service, that we're able to offer our client as well. If they want something captured, we can do it pretty much same day.
Additionally, we've been able to give this information, and some of our clients are using this information to sit down with their contractors outside of programs. They look at the site, they understand what they need to prepare before they go to site, rather than what traditionally occurs is someone goes to site believing they understand what the requirements of the outputs are, arrives and realize that they're missing some sort of equipment this is essentially fundamental to delivering the desired outcome. And then they have to go back to, say, their workshop or go back to the supplier and get the equipment and come back. This also helps us and the client identify access issues, because some of these sites, as discussed before, are really remote. We're also capturing the access paths, so we're looking at gradients and the conditions around them, so we can easily determine what type of equipment we need to place before we even show up.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good number that I quite like to throw around. So, talking to the guys that operate the rigging teams, they might be able to send a rigging team and in a good day, perhaps, capture, or inspect two towers in a day. Whereas, we've got a single operator and, doing a full data capture of, upward of nine assets a day, 9 towers a day. For one person. I mean, to be fair, that person is working a good solid day, but there's absolutely no comparison.
Yeah. So
as you can see, the unit, the Skydio unit is absolutely magnificent for this. It's just the way that it's able to inspect the asset and create a flight plan around it to be able to capture every single piece. Even sort of looking upward underneath. Those the arms on that is just it's just incredible the amount of data that you're able to capture with these things.
Great. Yeah. So, following on from that, discussing the on-site inspection process, Ben, again, you've been doing this for some time now with the Skydio, and it'd be great to, understand what is the process for, when you go on site and you start utilizing drones to capture these sort of assets?
Well, it's actually surprisingly easy. There's quite a low barrier for training around the Skydio drones. I mean, we're using the 2+ Enterprise, and it's been a very easy drone to train on. So its proximity sensors, a second to none. It's about the only drone I know of that is able to dance around, power lines, anything sort of 15 millimeters or more. It manages to avoid, which means that you could quite safely send it up this tower, even if it did have, cables hanging off it. And quite often, if we're talking about stayed masts, some of these towers could have, 9 or 10 stays, cables coming off these masts. And this drone is absolutely wonderful at, zipping around it and avoiding it while, doing a really decent job of capturing it. But, the fact that you could pretty much train someone up and have them, going out in the field and doing this type of work within perhaps, 1 or 2 days worth of basic training is a really, really good benefit of Skydio. The sort of advanced stuff, that can kind of come later on. But the thing is, you can use it as a turnkey sort of solution. Give it to someone that has got basic drone knowledge or has been flying drones for perhaps on the weekend for photography. You could give them one of these, and within perhaps 1 or 2 days worth of training, I'd be quite confident that they'd do quite a good job of capturing these types of assets. I think that's quite a powerful benefit, really, with the Skydio drones, is that they're absolutely top tier obstacle performance, obstacle avoidance performance. And it's a really easy training solution.
Yeah, great. When we look at a structure like this, it looks extremely complex and for some people, quite intimidating when it comes to flying a drone around these sort of complex assets. And in most cases, they're critical assets. And traditionally, we're quite cautious of flying around these, these tricky structures. So, what is it like from your perspective? What's it like navigating the drone through, these energized pieces of tower and the lattice work and things like that?
Well, the nature of the drone is that, it essentially creates a 3D mesh, inspects the asset, creates a 3D mesh, which then helps it develop a flight path around the asset. And then it essentially just follows the flight path. So the actual process is very, very straightforward. I mean, it's almost, you'd almost send a kid out to do it. It's really great. You're essentially just babysitting it. That's all you're doing.
Yeah. Sounds like an ideal scenario.
The fact that you can send it up, I mean, it'll do, it's capable of maneuvers that you wouldn't generally do yourself. For example, it will fly in and out of these, the holes within the ground part of this lattice tower. I wouldn't do that with any other of my drones, but it's more than capable of doing it very safely to capture the inside of it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so James, I just want to say all the pilots that have moved from manual capture and other commercial drones that don't have the capabilities of a Skydio are really, really impressed with this unit, and all of them, as Ben said, wouldn't traditionally fly in the manner that this does, nor to the speed and the quality of outputs that are occurring here.
Yeah, and that really leads into our next discussion points is the data quality. The operation of the drone and the optimizations of capturing it faster, safer is absolutely great. But obviously a huge importance on this type of capture is the quality. Without the outputs, then there's not much use to it all. So love to hear, from Ross as well, from Drone Deploy here. What are the, once you've captured the data with the drone, Ben and Jay, feel free to jump in as well. How do you create the detailed model within the Drone Deploy platform?
Yeah, that's it. Once you have that 3D model, yeah, it's brilliant to start collaborating. But maybe you can tell us quickly about once you've captured that data, what's it like to upload it, and then how fast can you expect to start working with it?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, Drone Deploy as a platform is very user-friendly. I mean, our guys are essentially just getting the images that are captured by the Skydio and, I mean, essentially dumping them into a folder, and then it's processed on, on the server side. So, we don't need to have a lot of processing power on our side, which is a great benefit. And the process doesn't take all that long, really. If you're talking about a tower this size, perhaps it could be finished in a few days. I should say a few hours. The projects vary obviously in size. You could have a several hectare school campus, which could take a day or so, but it's absolutely easy to use, and I think that's one of the real benefits, and I think that's what makes Skydio and Drone Deploy such a good match. It's just the absolute ease of use, which means that low barrier for training. It means that the guys are out there in the field, not sitting in the office trying to figure out how to actually put the stuff in the system.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The other thing is for the client, the other thing is the client wants to have a look at these models as well. Of course, they're very interested in their assets, and the ability for them to be able to browse it without a lot of training, or really any training, if they've got basic computer knowledge, is absolutely great.
Yeah, too right. Having that easy access to the data sets once you've got them, being able to share them around and collaborate, communicate. Yeah, that's all wonderful to have on the platform there. Over to you, James.
Yeah, excellent. So, mindful of time, we had 30 minutes for this discussion, and we love to, collaborate with the attendees on the call. And we do have a few questions, and I'll open up to the floor here. We've received a question here. I presume all inspections are beyond visual line of sight, or are they still visual line of sight? If they are beyond visual line of sight, did you place the drone in each of the towers? Ben, I think you might be able to comment on this one in terms of the visual line of sight operation that you utilize to capture this data.
That's a fairly easy one. That's a fairly easy one, really. So all of our guys capture, within line of sight. So they're essentially underneath the tower, watching the drone. I kind of call it babysitting the drone, really, because you're not really operating it. It is truly autonomous. So the guys do have a visual line of sight of the drone for the whole scan.
Yeah, great. Another question here, is the data uploaded in real time, or is it done sort of post-flight?
So there is the ability to upload on the fly. I know that there's a link. We don't tend to use it just because the places that we go out, although quite often we are linking to the mobile tower that we're scanning. Generally, we're scanning locations that are in the middle of nowhere, where the internet speed might be pretty slow. So generally, it's once we get back to base, we then upload it. But we're talking about gigabytes and gigabytes of data, so you need a pretty decent fiber connection for it not to take forever.
Yeah, good point. We have another question here. How many batteries would it usually take you to capture this particular tower that we have on the screen here with the Skydio 2 Plus?
That one there, one battery would do it. Of course, it depends on how many images you're taking. You've got a few different parameters that you can set different overlaps, crosslaps, distance from surface that will determine, how many images, and the more images you want to take, obviously the better the model. But there's got to be a sweet spot between, spending too much time on the job and capturing, the right amount of data, because you could spend, if you wanted to, several hours on a job that really you could do a decent job within half an hour. So this thing here, I think, took us 1 battery.
Yeah,
it's pretty efficient drone, really.
And I guess for the audience out there, a standard Skydio 2 battery has an endurance of up to 27 minutes. So I guess if you're able to capture that in 1 battery, that's pretty good battery management. I think it's nice not having to swap batteries in between flights, although we can do that, can't we? So no, that's great. Thanks, Ben. Now we do have a question here. It's based around how you utilize a drone from a control perspective, and the question is, do you have to use the enterprise controller, or will the basic Skydio controller work? From my understanding, Ben and Jay, you guys are using the standard in-service Skydio 2 controller. How have you been finding that one to utilize that for this type of capture?
Yeah, no, it's just a perfectly fine controller. To be honest, you don't use it all that much because the drone, automatically lands onto the Skydio logo on these landing pads that we've built, and the only time you really need to touch the controller is if you need, to take over the control. But we're not using the enterprise one. We're just using the basic. I believe it's a Parrot controller. So it's just the standard with an iPad attached. That's how we're leveraging them.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a few minutes left, and I'd love to hear more from Ross. I think the collaboration between the 3 parties here is absolutely paramount to provide all of our clients with the outputs they desire. There's a really important fundamental use of utilizing drone deploy, and that's annotating and sharing these models. So from your process of capturing the data of your cell tower, how do you annotate and share these models to your clients from the program side?
So generally, what the client's interested in is the location of their assets on the structures, measurements. So we're talking tower heights, we're talking, distances between assets on the same site. There are quite a few, APIs with, there's a lot of integration going on as well with, a lot of our data management software as well. So you can, tag a, an annotation anywhere on a structure and have it sent through to pretty much any URL. So that means you could, push an API to any, any database you want, or any web link, or you can pretty much annotate it however you like.
Yeah, that's
I'd just like to note that both Drone Deploy with Ross and Skydio with James are true partners for Programmed. The access and building integrations is key for Programmed. We always want to improve, and we have certainly pushed both partners here in different aspects, and they've responded extremely well. Drone Deploy has come a long ways from when we started, when we were just simplifying a 2D flight. And then we've also pushed the Skydio use significantly in New Zealand. So absolutely, the sharing and annotation, there's been developments in there, and I know Ross with some of our conversations and essentially our collaborative outputs have enhanced some of that for us and our clients. But I'll let you expand on that some more.
Yeah, it really has been an excellent opportunity to partner on these types of challenges. Creating a mesh of a thin structure has always been a challenge for photogrammetry, but with a capture device like a Skydio and the back-end work that we're doing in our photogrammetry engine to really build out the capability to create this mesh use cases there. It's ongoing work, and it's really come along leaps and bounds. Like the kind of displays we're seeing at the moment, these models is just brilliant. So it has been quite a journey, and we're looking forward to seeing where it takes us.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, team, we're running really short of time here, and we want to give our thanks to the audience today for joining us. For those that can't make it, this will be a recorded session, so we will be able to share this on LinkedIn and through our social channels